Shalom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. It is May the 21st, 2022, day 114 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1132. Today, we're picking back up in the Oahspe on page 95. Remember, we finished the book of Apollo for the heavenly account. Now we got to go all the way back to the beginning where we started the book of Apollo, then go below and read the earthly account, which begins the Lord's third book. Melinda Brown, Grand Rising. Shan, Grand Rising. Cameron, Grand Rising. All right, y'all. So let's get going. And after we finish reading Oahspe, which is going to be really short today because it's only 3 chapters in the Lord's third book, we're going to pick back up in the meditation book on page 142. All right, y'all. Father, here we are again today. Thank you for watching over all of us as we slept throughout the night and keeping our families safe. But here we are again, standing on our post, searching for truth. All right, y'all. Here we go. Page 95. Yeah, page 95 in the Oahspe, the Lord's third book. Being contemporaneous with the book of Apollo, son of Jehovah, as the latter book is of heaven, so is the Lord's book of earth for the same period of time. Chapter 1. In the time of heaven, known as the Ark of Rupta and Mos, the Lord descended to the earth in a sea of fire to the land of Gautama. Everybody remember what the land of Gautama was or is? We just know about a different name today. America. And the Lord spake over the land and over the waters, calling and speaking, where are the Ehims, the chosen of the Lord? Speak, O man, come forth at the call of thy God. Then spake man, answering to the call of God, saying, more than 1 million, more than 2, more than 4 million are thy people, O Lord. The Lord inquired, where are my people? Where is the place and boundary of the sacred people, the Ehims, whom I delivered in the time of the flood? And man answered, saying, from the head of Kakasak, the mountain river of rivers, Amazon. And Thessonka, wide as the ocean, and the mountain plains of Om, and Om is in Mexico, to the great cities of Awangachi and Nathan and Neshesh and Tesumethgad and Nepal and Yeshua. Remember here, Yeshua, when it refers to the land of Yeshua, is actually a land, a place. It's like the city of salvation, right? We read that a few chapters back. I want to say we read about it in the book of don't quote me. It's back there, though. To the great cities of Awangachi and Nathan and Neshesh and Tesumethgad and Nepal and Yeshua by the lake Owan, which is Nicaragua. Here standeth the tower of Rekowana, shining with copper and silver and gold, and by the river Raksa and her lake Jagan, and over the plains of Gomagat, which is Crescent, and Takshan, where they build great boats with sails of cloths and beams across, and the north land of Ufsik and Ichuang, where beginneth the still river Epsu, a canal, running to the wide oceans, Vid and Sajans, which is Lake Superior and Michigan, where the Ehuans dig deep down and bring copper and silver and lead and boats to the king of Avea, Ehuan monarch and good protector. And after protector, it has reference letter A. which says, which is on page 101, and the reference letter 8 says, in another place described, this country seems to have been inhabited first in Central or South America and to have embraced South America, Mexico, Texas, and western Mississippi, whence a canal extended to the Lake Superior mines. Further research now shows that these wonderful people also extended over a large part of Tennessee and Ohio, and a part of Kentucky, and a large part of Kansas. See discussion of mound builders in early history of Native Americans. And that's the 1882 lowest edition. Okay. Back to page 96, verse 7. The Lord said, the greatest place of all thou hast not named. Hold on. The Lord said, the greatest place of all thou hast not named. Thine eyes have not seen, thy ears have not, thine eyes have not seen, thine ears heard not. Search therefore and be wise. Man said, I was ashamed before God, so I set out to get great learning to know of what the Lord spake. And I traveled 1 year to the north, and many moons to the south and east. And I found a rabbah of great learning, both in books and spoken words, and not a few prophets of the Lord in great cities. So I inquired, saying, which is the greatest place of the Lord's chosen? And lo and behold, they answered even as I had answered the Lord. Then I came to the city of Tazuntakwa, a place for the yearly dance in the valley of Oahspe, where the Rabbah's temple is covered with copper, polished, and I asked the same questions. For the Chiba within me desired to make a record of all things valuable. But alas, I got no other answer than the echo of my own words. God said, where am I chosen? Where is the greatest place of the Ehings? Thou hast shown me the Ehuans, their great cities and kingdoms, their places of great learning. But the greatest of all thou hast not shown. Man answered, I know not, O Lord, speak thou. The Lord said, and amongst the Ehuans are the Ehings, the little sacred people, the little cities and the suburbs of the large cities of the Ehuans, these are the greatest cities. Man inquired of God, how can that be? Behold, the Ehuans are 3 to 1 compared to the Ehings. The Lord said, these that build temples of hewn stone and cover them with polished copper are not my people. These warrior kings that fortify their cities with soldiers are not my people. They are not great. But these are my chosen that live in mounds and in cities with wooden walls and clay walls. They are the greatest of all people. They dress not in gaudy colors, nor ornament themselves with copper and silver and gold. They are the people of learning. They survey the way for the canals. They find the square and the arch. They lead the Ehuan to the mines where lead and copper and silver are buried. These are the great people. And after where it says these are it has reference number 1, where in a previous version reference 1 had a great people. Here in this updated version it says these are the great people. Verse 16, without them the Ehuan could not build his own house. He could not find the level for a canal, nor provide the square of his temple. The Ehings are the greatest people. My chosen have shapely legs and arms, and feet and hands, and their hair groweth long and straight, white and yellow. The Lord said, because the Ehuan is of all shapes and sizes, and of all grades and judgment, even down to the ignorance of a beast, behold, he is bringing forth heirs of darkness. Come unto the Lord, O ye that are chosen. Ye have built houses and temples for the Ehuans, but of what avail are these things? Behold, they are at war. tribe against tribe, nation against nation. They no longer hearken to my rabbis, the priests of my chosen. And we call it like rabbis, but in here it says rabbah. Go to now, ye shall build temples unto God. Then the Ehims inquired the meaning of the word of God. The Lord said, long have I prophesied through my chosen, the Ehims. Now will I raise up prophets amongst the Ehuans, the copper-colored race. This is the temple ye shall build unto the great spirit and his kingdoms in Haden. Two peoples there are before my judgment, saith the Lord, the one that heareth not the voice of God, nor knoweth him, but the other people know me, and endeavor to obey my commandments. And God was weary with laboring for the Ehuans, for they went more after the way of darkness than light. And the Lord called hence his guardian angels, leaving the Ehuans alone for a season, and spirits of darkness came upon them and obsessed them. And in the same time the Lord caused his chosen to display the mold of their thighs and their short shapely arms. And the Ehuans tempted them contrary to law. So it came to pass that the Ehuan women boasted of their conquest, bringing forth heirs of more shapeliness. Now, in course of time, these heirs grew to be men and women, and behold, they had the gift of prophecy, and of seeing visions, and of hearing the voice of angels of heaven. They were called Ongwigan, signifying good-shaped men. Chapter 2. God said, suffer not the Ongwi to dwell with the Ehims, lest the seed of my chosen be lost. The Ongwis came suddenly into the world, came in the north and south and east and west, came by thousands and thousands. They had long hair, black and coarse, but their skin was brown, copper-colored, and their arms were short like the Ehims. Very proud were the Ongwis. They would not mix with the Ehuans, and they dared not mix with the sacred people because of the commandment of the Lord. So the Ongwigan became a new race in the world, having all the symmetry of the Ehims and the savageness of the Ehuans, and being feeders on flesh and fish, fell under the dominion of angels of the lower heaven, and they rejected the Lord God. The Lord said, even this will I appropriate for their own salvation in time to come. So the Lord commanded the Ehims to give to the Ongwis laws, rites, and ceremonies, and these things were done as commanded. Then came the angels of the lower heaven, teaching the Ongwis. Ongwis is spelled Ongwees. Then came the angels of the lower heaven, teaching the Ongwis the secret of making eunuchs of their enemies, the Ehuans with long arms, teaching them how to make spears and bows with arrows, and darts and fishing hooks and nets, teaching them how to make fire by striking flint stones, teaching them how to cook flesh and fish and to make them more palatable, add some seasoning on them. And this was the first cooked food for man since the days of the flood. The Ehims feared the Lord, would visit a judgment upon the land because of the Ongwis killing and eating flesh. But the Lord said unto them, suffer ye the Ongwis to fulfill their labor. Too full is all the land with beasts and serpents. Nevertheless, it shall come to pass that great destruction shall come upon the Ehuans and the ground people and the Ongwis. Their great cities shall be destroyed, and the lands laid desolate, but I will rebuild them again with greater glory than in this day. So it came to pass, as the Lord had spoken through the Ehim prophets, in 300 years, and after 100, it says, it has reference to, and down at the bottom, reference to says 3,000 years. That was in a previous version. In 300 years, the large and handsome race, the Ongwis, transcended the long-armed Ehuans, the short-legged race. God said, Hear me, O man, understand the labor of the Lord thy God. Jehovah said to the Lord, Go thou to yonder earth, and make man upright on 2 feet. And the Lord accomplished it. Then said Jehovah, Go yonder, and make man shapely on the earth. And the Lord findeth a way to do this also. Forget not the Lord thy God. Such labor will fall to thy lot when thou art long risen in heaven. Behold, there are millions of worlds, new coming into being every day. Expand thy judgment, make thyself comprehensive, that thou may fulfill in wisdom and the glory of the Almighty. Chapter 3. God said, Hear the word of the Lord, O man. Be considerate in thy little wisdom of the magnitude of the labor of thy Lord. Certain times and seasons are allotted by Jehovah for the development of new orders of men on the worlds he created. According to the times and seasons and condition of the earth, so hath the Lord thy God provided the race of man. To raise man up, that he may comprehend the beautiful creation, and that he may be adapted in harmony therewith, is the glory of thy God. Behold, I have spoken of the land of Gautama. Think not that as one division of the earth is made answerable to my will by a certain rule, that even so another division of the earth is provided in the same way. The Lord thy God findeth one place filled with beasts of prey and great serpents, which must be destroyed, and he provideth a race of men to accomplish this. And man is suffered by God to become carnivorous for a season. In another country, the Lord findeth drought and frequent famine, and he provideth man with knowledge adapted thereto. So also are there seasons to the earth, when man shall be changed from one condition to another, according to the progress of the earth. So God lifted up man for the glory of the Almighty. Suffer not thy judgment to mislead thee as to a law of selection. There is no law of selection. Man hath no inspiration of his own to select and provide his progeny, neither in shapeliness nor judgment. He marrieth because of the impulse of the flesh, nor careth he for the issue, whether they have long legs or short ones, or whether they become warriors or imbeciles. And women careth even less than man. Nevertheless, a time cometh upon the world in a later age, when man and woman both consider these things, and somewhat govern themselves accordingly. But in such an era, they are almost fruitless. But in the early age of a world, man hath inherent, but in the early stage of a world, man hath inherent but 2 impulses, to eat and to indulge in cohabitation, meaning he need to find somebody to lay up with and live with. But in the early stage of a world, man hath inherent but 2 impulses, to eat and to indulge in cohabitation. Neither considereth he what may result therefrom. And the Lord and his angels lead man unknowingly to himself to fulfill his times and seasons. Now have I come to thee in Cosmon to make plain the government of heaven upon earth, and of thy God and his angels upon the race of man. Behold, in the time of Apollo, man in his present form was brought into being on the earth. The time and season of earth was in that day come unto that end, even as in this day thy Lord hath come to change man from a race of warriors to a race of peace. For now is the time and season of the earth. For now is the time and the season of the earth propitious to that end. In the time of Apollo were the first prophets of God raised up from other than the Ehin race. In that day the Ehuan The flesh-eating man was first capable of hearing the voice of thy Lord understandingly, and thy God commanded man to remember the God of harmony, symmetry, and music, and to build images of him in all the divisions of the earth. Be most searching, O man, for thou shalt find in this day and generation the legends and history of Apollo in all the divisions of the earth, and the word of his name in all languages hath the same signification. Behold, as in Gautama, or in America, as in Gautama, the Lord raised up seers whom he instructed in the methods of slaying beasts of prey and serpents. In the same period of time, raised he up for the same purpose other seers in Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which is India, Egypt, and China. Shem is India, Ham is Egypt, and China is Japheth, or Japheth, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And after, in that same verse where it says, in the same period of time, it has reference number 3. And down at the bottom it says, raised he up. Okay. I'll read that whole sentence again. Behold, as in Gautama, the Lord raised up seers whom he instructed in the methods of slaying beasts of prey and serpents. In the same period of time, raised he up for the same purpose other seers in Shem, Ham, and Japheth, India, Egypt, and China. And the names of the great slayers are preserved to this day in the mortal histories of these countries. Thus created the Lord a new race on the earth, and in all the divisions thereof a new race came of the Ehines and the Uhuans. According to the different countries where they dwelt, so are they found to this day, in which thy God provided all these people who are of pure blood to have no other God nor Lord than the great Spirit Jehovah. Nevertheless, in the time of Apollo, this race was but a fraction compared to the hundreds of millions of Ehuans and ground people and Ehines that dwelt on the earth. But the Ehuans were at war for more than 1,000 years. They built great cities and established mighty kingdoms. But as soon as built, lo, the wars laid them low or dissipated them. God said, now will I give to man a new commandment God said, now will I give to man a new commandment, which is, go forth and subdue the earth, to slay every beast of prey and every serpent that cometh before him. And of beasts of prey and of serpents thou shalt not eat the flesh, nor the blood, which containeth the life. Neither shalt thou eat the flesh of the beast with uncloven foot, nor shalt thou eat swine's flesh. But all cloven-footed animals I give unto thee for food to eat. For in the day thou takest the place of beasts of prey, thou shalt also take to thyself to eat the flesh they would have eaten. Then the Lord sent Ehim priests to circumcise the new race, the Gan, Ghan, and he commanded the Gans to marry amongst themselves, promising to give all the world into their keeping. And the Gans began to wear clothes after the manner of the Ehines, and the latter gave them rites and ceremonies and taught them how to pray and dance before Jehovah. And that is the end of the Lord's 3rd book. All right, beautiful people. All right, so don't get us mixed up. Don't get the names mixed up on who is allowed to eat flesh and who is not. The chosen people are still not allowed to eat flesh. Remember earlier on what it tells us what happens to the body, to your flesh and your spirit if you consume any kind of flesh, right? It begins, not only does it cause the body to break down, but it also weighs your spirit, the real you, down to where you cannot ascend as you continue to grow. You cannot ascend to any higher heaven than the earth realm. And even after you pass, if you were constantly consuming flesh and you never gave up that habit, you will not be able to rise higher than that realm, which is the realm that you enter right upon death. And there's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of war and stuff still going on in that realm, just like you see here on the earth realm. Okay. All right. So that is the end of the Earth's account. Yes, sweetie.
You about to be done?
Well, shortly. Okay, so let's read. We got like 5 minutes. Let's start into the book of Thor, son of Jehovah. This is a short chapter to take us for like the last 5 minutes so we get into, so we can go into our next book. Okay. On page 110, book of Thor, son of Jehovah. Being the records of Thor, Apollo's successor on the earth and in her heavens, from the ark of Mos to the ark of Day in the Etherian heavens, and of 3,200 years. Chapter 1. Thor, Orion chief of Danga in Ethera, god of Pala, surveyor of Urets and Thassa, god of Galeb, receiver of Saphir and Hosanna, god of Warts and Lo and Yisane, counselor in the Etherian worlds, Hituna, Kataran, Seeing, Sethawan, and Hababak. Greeting. Sorry, y'all. Y'all know I be screwing up these names sometimes. In the holy council of gods and goddesses in Danga, the voice of Jehovah came to Thor, saying, My son, behold the red star, the earth. She courseth from Mos to Day, and 3,200 years of Gan. Thor spoke before the holy council on Jehovah's Etherian throne, saying, Behold, the young world, the earth, cometh our way. For 3,200 years she would journey in the fields of Danga. Then the holy council deliberated on the matters of the earth and her heavens and all other corporal worlds that were to pass through Danga for 3,000 years. And it was found that the dawn of Dan would fall upon the earth first of all. Then called Thor for the swift messengers that course the firmament in the regions of Apperwaith, the roadway of the earth's past history. And the swift messengers came and laid their report before the throne of Jehovah as to what world the earth was, and the harvest of angels she yielded up to the emancipated heavens. When their reports were finished and deliberated on by the holy council, Thor, son of Jehovah, said, For further knowledge as to the present condition of this world, the earth, it is my command that Yathi, god of Gamato, choose 1,000,000 volunteers, and in Areta proceed to the earth and her heavens to visit her God and lords and ascertain the condition of their angels and mortals and report back in Danga. So Yathi, you're welcome, Pooh. So Yathi, god of Gamato in Ethera, was appointed for this purpose, and he provided an Areta and took with him 1,000,000 Etherians and proceeded to the earth and her heavens as commanded. And Yathi came to the throne of God in Gal, in atmosphere, and God sent to his lords an invitation to come also. And there came 72 of them. God said to Yathi, Behold, the earth and these atmospheric heavens are full of false lords and false gods. Yathi inquired, How many were there? God said, More than 30,000 gods and 160,000 lords. Behold, in every great city on earth is there a false god or false lord, and he hath a small heavenly kingdom of his own, even on the earth. And the spirits of the dead of that place are his slaves for his own exaltation. So if you get taken by one of these false gods or false lords, when you pass away from the earth realm and you enter into eternity, that realm that all the flesh eaters can't rise above, you're there, and you're taken as slaves by them false gods and false lords that led you astray here. That's why we we reading through stuff, we trying to make sure we are not the ones being taken, right? Okay. We want to make sure we are serving the true and living only God, which this book refers to as Jehovah, as well as the Great Spirit. Everybody under him, all his sons and daughters, depending on what rank they have, like if you're ruling over a planet or a world, you get the title of God. Everybody under the God, only one God rules that planet or that land, like the earth, at a time. You get a period of time to rule, and you have your entire cabinet, which are named lords and all the other titles that they get, right? You get to rule for that time. And if you do a good job, at the end of your ruling, there's a graduation. Remember, we read through all this. There's a graduation, and those who graduate are called brides and bridegrooms, or the men and women who have learned enough in this realm to graduate to the next realm and not be caught in the realm of the false gods and false lords, where those who leave and haven't gotten to that certain level, you can kind of bypass that and you can continue your learning and your growth, right? Until eventually you go through those ranks, right? You climb up the ranks. Anybody in the military understands rank and hierarchy. It's exactly what it is. The Great Spirit, the Great Creator, has a hierarchy system. That's where we get it from. We learned it from them, right? We see it, and you get to climb up. It's a long while, but you will eventually get the chance to rule as God, right, over a planet. It may not be Earth, right? It could be another world, but everyone will get an opportunity to rule, right? Okay. If you grow, if you continue to, like, if you stay in school and you continue to grow, right? You in a line of succession. But it'll be a while before we get there, right? Okay. And hold on, let me go back. Let me start verse 11 over. God said to Yathi, behold, the earth and these atmosphere heavens are full of false lords and false gods. Yathi inquired how many there were. God said, more than 30,000 gods and 160,000 lords. Behold, in every great city on earth is there a false god or a false lord, and he hath a small heavenly kingdom of his own, even on the earth. And the spirits of the dead of that place are his slaves for his own exaltation. And in many of these heavenly kingdoms there are wars and anarchy, and after anarchy it has hells, where the angels torment one another endlessly. Nor will these false gods and false lords and their subjects admit that they are higher heavens than their own. The spirits of the newly dead are captured and kept in ignorance of Jehovah, meaning those who have been led astray by these false gods, when they're captured after they pass away, they're still kept in ignorance of the true and one and only living, not God, but, and in our understanding, the great creator. They're still kept in ignorance while they're enslaved by the God that they thought that thought was the real God. Listen. The spirits of the newly dead are captured and kept in ignorance of Jehovah and his vast creations, but made to bow in adoration and worship to the false lord or false god. And these again, being in contiguity with mortals, inspire them to the same worship, which fits them in the time of death, to fall as slaves into the dominion of him whom they worship. Remember, we was talking about, we done got this whole worship piece all chopped and screwed up. We were never designed to worship, although we thank the Creator for his mercy and his grace and long suffering with us as we grow. We were never designed to worship like we've been taught, right? It immobilizes you. It keeps you from growing, right? Don't get that messed up. You can worship, like I said, and have a thankful heart, but just to stop and spend your time, it immobilizes you. It hinders you from growing. But you have to make sure you keep a proper balance and really understand what that is. So you don't get caught up in the cycles of untruth, so to speak, right? We all been there. It's a daily process of progress and growth. Verse 13. The spirits of the newly dead are captured and kept in ignorance of Jehovah and his vast creations, but made to bow in adoration and worship to the false lord or false god. And these again, being in contiguity with mortals, inspire them to the same worship, which fits them in the time of death to fall as slaves into the dominion of him who they worshipped. The wars in heaven have inspired mortals to war on earth, so that all around the world everlasting battles are going on. And we can clearly see that today still in our time. And such as are slain on earth battlefields are born in spirit in chaos, not knowing they are dead as to the earth. And so they linger on the battlefields, still battling imaginary foes. So when you transition, whatever state you transition in, some of you, especially if they're living in a chaotic state, they don't even realize they've transitioned over. So remember when we were talking about a few weeks ago, when we were talking about Robert Monroe, right? Remember how we were learning about his institution, the Monroe Institute? And remember how he said when they was doing meditation, when he would have the out-of-body experiences, when he get into the astral realm or into the spiritual realm or to the unseen realm, he could see what we couldn't see with our physical eyes. And there was a scene where he was present, where a war was going on, and there were men who were dying. But as they died, he said they didn't realize that they had died, and they continued fighting. They were fighting, but they realized they couldn't pierce the flesh person that they were trying to fight. And it was like they didn't catch on right away that they weren't there. And then once they realized that nobody was being hurt by their jabs and stuff, they stopped and began to observe what happened, right? And then so there were other ones that were populating. They call it people in the heavens with spirits of chaos, right? So other spirits of chaos are those other ones who had died in times of war. When they also entered that realm and they saw the enemy, they began to fight one another in the spiritual realm, still not doing any kind of harm or anything. And I ain't gonna say they tired themselves out, but after a period of trying to struggle and fight and kill one another, they realized they weren't hurting one another. They began to stop and really observe what was going on, and it finally clicked that they had actually died in the war. And and so it goes on and through the book, this what is the name of his series? We was just talking about it. I keep the links in every video. Well, the meditation one, Journeys Beyond. Yeah, it's called the first. It's a three book trilogy. Journeys Beyond, and Far Beyond Journeys. I think that's the name of the three. But he gets into detail about a lot of that stuff that he experienced when he started having all these out-of-body experiences. And that it is true, especially if you've personally had out-of-body experiences and you've observed things. When you get into the unseen realm or the astral realm or the spiritual realm or whatever you want to call it, you will know some of the stuff that we're coming across is true, right? Okay. The wars in heaven have inspired mortals to war on earth, so that all around the world everlasting battles are going on, and such as are slain on earth battlefields are born in spirit in chaos, not knowing that they are dead as to the earth. And so they linger on in battlefields, still battling imaginary foes. All over the earth are these battlefields covered with spirits in chaos, and with the spirits of drooks and druhas and yaks and ground people who know nothing more than the beast in the field. Return, therefore, O Yahweh, to thy Orion chief, Thor, son of Jehovah, and say to him, the God of earth is powerless to rescue her angels and mortals from the great darkness upon them, and beseech him in Jehovah's name to come and deliver me and my kingdoms. Yahweh inquired as to the races of men on earth, And as to the times of their termination, God said, in the time to come, the Ehin race, the mound builders, will come to an end. And in that day, Gons will have triumphed over all the lands and waters of the earth. When Yathi had obtained the required information and also learned the localities of the divisions of the earth and her heavens, he departed in his Arata with his companions and visited all the chief places, and then returned to Danga in Ethera before Thor, son of Jehovah, to whom he reported all that he had learned as to the condition of the earth and her heavens. Then came the light of Jehovah to Thor, saying, My son, take thou a sufficient host of Etherians, and go to the red star in her heavens, and deliver them in my name. And that is where we'll pause at today. That is the end of chapter 1 of the book of Thor. All right, so we'll pick that back up tomorrow.
When you're done.
No, I'm not done. I'm just done with the Oahspe reading, Pootie. All right, y'all. So let's hop on over here to the meditation book to pick up where we left off at on page 142. So remember I said I was going to go back and reread. I didn't put my mark in the right place. Okay. On page 140, we read all of page 142 yesterday, but I wanted to reread it. Okay. General society believes that actions are to be performed for the goal of attaining some objective which will yield a reward. And so it's talking about meditation and getting into the habit of properly meditating and not just doing it to seek certain benefits that you know that can come from it, but to literally make it a part of your life to where it's a lifestyle. So you're in like this perpetual state of meditation, meaning that you're in constant communion and you're constantly aligned with the great spirit, with the great creator, right? Okay. The socialization process teaches the individual to seek to perform actions because this is the way to attain something which will cause happiness. This is the predicament of the masses of people who have not studied yoga or mystical philosophies such as Buddhism, Shatu Neter, or Vedanta. The following line from the Declaration of Independence illustrates this point succinctly. Quote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. End quote. Yoga philosophy is not against the pursuit of happiness in the world of time and space. However, it does teach that the pursuit of happiness with a sense of attachment and dependence on objects and situations in the world of human experience will not fulfill the deeper need of the soul. If at all, they should be pursued with an attitude of detachment, and dissipation. In reality, happiness does not and cannot come from objects that can be acquired or from activities that are performed. It can only come from within. Even actions that seem to be pleasurable in life cannot be considered as sources of happiness from a philosophical point of view because all activities are relative. This means that while one activity is pleasurable for one person, it is painful for another. This leads to the realization that it is not the activity itself that holds the happiness, but the individual doer who is performing the action and assigning a value to which he or she has learned from society to assign. Therefore, if it was learned that going out to a party is supposed to be fun, then that activity will be pursued as a source of happiness. Here, action is performed in pursuit of the fruit of the action Here, action is performed in pursuit of the fruit of the action in the form happiness. A result is desired from the action. However, There are several negative psychological factors which arise that will not allow true happiness to manifest. First is that the relentless pursuit of the action renders the mind restless and agitated. The second is that if the activity is not possible, there will be depression in the mind. If the activity is thwarted by some outside force, meaning that something or someone prevented you from achieving the object or activity you saw as the source of happiness, you develop anger towards it or them. If by chance you succeed in achieving the object or activity, you become elated, and this will cause greed in the mind. If by chance you succeed in achieving the object or activity, you can answer it if she called back. Answer it from there. If by chance you succeed in achieving the object or activity, you become elated, and this will cause greed in the mind. Okay, well, don't answer it, Tootie. You will want more and more of it. When you are not able to get more at any particular time, you will become depressed and disappointed. Under these conditions, a constant dependence on outside activities and worldly objects develops in the mind, which will not allow for peace and contentment. Even though it is illogical to pursue activities which cause pain in life, people are constantly acting against their own interests as they engage in actions in an effort to gain happiness, while in reality, they are enhancing the probability of encountering pain later on. People often act and shortly regret what they have done. Sometimes people know, even at the time of their actions, that they are wrong, yet they are unable to stop themselves. This is because when the mind is controlled by desires and expectations, the intellect, the light of reason, is clouded and dull. However, when the mind is controlled by the intellect, then it is not possible to be led astray due to the fantasies and illusions of the mind. When the individual is guided by their intellect, then only right actions can be performed, no matter what negative ideas arise in the mind. Such a person cannot be deluded into negative actions, and when negative actions which lead to future pain and disappointments, are not performed, then unhappiness cannot exist. Thus, a person who lives according to the teachings of non-doership, without desire or expectations for the future results of their actions, lives a life of perpetual peace and happiness in the present. And that's what we paused at yesterday. So we're going to pick it back up right here. Thus, true peace and inner fulfillment will never come through the pursuit of actions when there is an expectation or desire for the fruits of those actions. The belief in objects or worldly activities as sources of happiness is therefore seen as a state known as ignorance, wherein the individual is caught up in the illusions, fantasies, and fanciful notions of the mind. However, happiness and peace can arise spontaneously when there is an attitude of detachment and dispassion towards objects and situations in life. If actions are performed with the idea of discovering peace within, based on the understanding of the philosophy outlined above, and for the sake of the betterment of society, then these actions will have the effect of purifying the heart of the individual. The desires and expectations will dwindle, while the inner fulfillment and awareness of the present moment will increase. There will be greater and greater discovery of peace within, a discovery of what is truly stable and changeless within, as opposed to the mind and the outer world, which are constantly changing and unpredictable. Along with this, there is greater effectiveness and perfection in one's actions. Actions of any type will always lead to some result. However, this result is not as predictable as people have come to believe. In reality, the only thing a human being can control is the action itself and not the fruits of the action. If there is concentration on the action without desire or expectation of the fruits of the action, then there can be peace and contentment even while the action is being performed. This is the way of the non-doer. Actions performed with expectations and desire are the way of the doer. The non-doer is free from the fruits because she is free from desires and expectations, while the doer is dependent on the actions and is bound to the results, be they positive or negative. When desires and expectations in the mind are resolved, the mind becomes calm and peaceful. Under these conditions, the doer is free from elation or depression because her pleasure is coming from the present action in the present moment and is not based on memories of past pleasurable situations, which are impelling a movement to repeat those activities, or on expectation for the future activities which will somehow bring happiness. The non-doer, not being bound to the memories or to the expectations, is not bound by either the past nor the future, and thereby discovers an eternal present. The doer is always caught up in the past or the future, and thereby loses the opportunity to discover peace and true happiness. This is the condition of most people in the world. Yeah, clearly we can see it because most people's like, you got to go, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this because this is supposed to happen when we do this. So we want to be, as this is describing as the non-doers, one who really steps back and pays attention to what's really going on, not attaching ourselves to results, but our ultimate goal is really to purify our own soul, not being attached to all the things that society says we must do, right? When you must do things or you're being driven to do things, if you don't get the results desired, anger, frustration, or depression sets in, and you are just up and down and all over the place because you constantly got to be on the go because society says we got to do this, or we can't do this, or this won't happen, or the American dream, we have to do this. It's too much. It's too much. So in this case, we do want to be non-doers so we can sustain that eternal present peaceful state, and we can grow in peace. Okay. The doer is always caught up in the past or the future and thereby loses the opportunity to discover peace and true happiness. This is the condition of most people in the world. Before they realize it, their entire life has gone by without their being aware of the passage of time. The art of true spiritual life leads one to detach from the world even while continuing to live in it, and thereby to discover the hidden inner spiritual dimensions of the unconscious mind and what lies beyond. The doer is always bound to a form of experience which is determined by and linked to the world of time and space, because only in time and space can there manifest the memories of the past and the expectations for the future. The non-doer eventually discovers a transcendental experience of expanding consciousness in the present moment. The philosophy of meditation may seem foreign to you at first, but if you reflect upon it, you will discover that it holds great truth as well as a great potential to assist you in discovering abiding peace and harmony in your life. When you begin to practice and discover how wonderful it is to be in control of your mind instead of being prey to the positive or negative emotions and desires, you will discover an incomparable feeling which goes beyond the ordinary concept of happiness. As with other human endeavors, in order to gain success, You need to study the philosophy intensely with great concentration and then practice it in your day-to-day life. Treat it as an experiment. The world and your life will not go away. Just ask yourself, what would happen if I were to become less attached and more in control of my mind? Follow the teachings and discover the inner resources you have to experience true happiness and to overcome the obstacles in life. The practice of meditation requires regular and sustained effort. Failure is assured if there is no effort. Likewise, success is assured if there is sustained regular effort. Further, you cannot expect to succeed in meditation if you do not work towards controlling your thoughts, emotions, and actions in the normal course of life. Your actions, thoughts, and speech are closely related to your unconscious mind. It is like a register which records all as karmic impressions. Any unresolved desires or feelings become lodged there and later cause agitation and restlessness. Therefore, you must keep a close watch on your mind, speech, and deeds. Take care to act righteously, speak the truth, and think positive thoughts. The ancient Egyptian texts state that one cannot expect to obtain results unless one is, quote, mentally pure and physically pure, end quote. These are the keys.
Are you taking us to
Boy, yes, you know we're going today. Don't come ask me a question you already know the answer to. What? When it starts. Bye. Matter of fact, we're leaving early. Wake your brothers up. Tell them to get dressed because we're going to go look at 2 properties today. Go. Bye. Sorry. These are the keys to accomplishing any goal in life, and enlightenment is a goal like any other, albeit the highest goal. With respect to attaining the goal of enlightenment, all other goals are like dust blowing in the wind. The following instruction will serve as guidelines for meditation and is not intended to be a substitute for a competent instructor. There are many techniques of meditation. Here, we will focus on basic techniques of moving meditations for initially calming the mind of the beginning practitioner. Another important factor of meditation is that the health of the body must be maintained through proper diet and proper exercise. This means that the diet should be composed of fresh, whole foods, and it should be exclusively vegetarian. You cannot expect to have success in meditation if you have a weak constitution or if you are constantly craving foods which heighten the body consciousness and negative emotions, and after that it has meats, or which have drug-like effects on the body, sugars. The mind is affected by these in the same manner that it is affected by other mind-altering drugs. Therefore, a spiritual aspirant must cleanse the mind and body in order to climb the ladder of spiritual evolution. And in parentheses, it has, see Initiation into Egyptian Yoga, The Secrets of Shetty by Oahspe. Oh yeah, 59 minutes. Right here, it gets into the diet. You know what, it's Saturday. So let me read a little bit about the diet since I already started on it. All right. The diet, page 145. And this is where we're at, like, daily. We are progressing, sometimes struggling and fighting against our own flesh to make sure we're making the right choices to make sure we give ourselves the best opportunity for spiritual growth. To where it's putting away flesh, eating meat. Like, it's been years since I've had any kind of flesh, right? But one of my main vices is sugars, right? Lord help me. Pray my strength in the Lord, y'all. No, seriously. But it does. And I notice, like, when I go on a fast or an extended fast and then I come back, and if I add sugars back into my diet, I literally feel the change almost immediately. And it's like a slowing down. My mind gets hazy, and it's like I gotta go lay down, and it's weird. And I don't really be overdoing it. Sometimes I do. Right? I'm like, Pam, you gotta stop this foolishness. You cannot continue growing if you can't put away the sugars. So it's like the honey buns, and I can't even eat Reese's anymore. Like that was my vice. Like all last year, popping Reese mini cups left and right. But now, I think I've grown this intolerance to peanut butter altogether. So peanuts that remember I was telling y'all about how like my senses change and everything. I can't eat anything with peanut butter, onions, garlic, or even some vegetables when they're cooked. It's weird because if I cook or saute certain vegetables, it'll give off that same like disgusting flavor and taste that'll make me want to throw up. To whereas if I eat it in its raw state, I'm absolutely fine. It's weird. I think some of my meditation practices, because that's one of the things I will focus on, really removing all things that shouldn't be in my diet from my diet. I think it kind of clicked over in the right side of the brain where it's been pushed, and the body is reacting to that. So it made it past the guard on the left side of the brain to actually push that. Now my brain is working with my body, and I can't even, sometimes I can't even smell it. It has that same stench and disgusting odor that meat has, and it literally makes me want to gag. It's weird. It seems inconvenient to me because of the smells and stuff. Even how you ride through town, somebody hand a cookout, and you smell stuff cooking on the grill. It's like, ooh, somebody grilling out. Somebody make some ribs. I want to throw up. Even how you ride past Burger King and the burgers, the smell you can normally smell coming from Burger King. I have to hold my breath now when I pass a Burger King, or when Burger King is within my vicinity and I can start picking up that smell. I have to literally hold my breath till I get out of that particular area where Burger King is at, because the smell is so overpowering. It literally makes me want to gag. I cannot stomach it anymore. It's weird, y'all. I don't even know. Okay, the diet. Quote, strive to prevent... This might be our title. Strive to prevent fatness. Okay. Quote, strive to prevent fatness so as that the weight on thy body will not weigh down thy soul. Oh, that's so good. I don't know if I can fit all of that in our title today. That is so good. Strive to prevent fatness so as that the weight on thy body will not weigh down thy soul. End quote. Ancient Egyptian proverb from the Temple of Aset. Many people do not realize that what they consume has a strong effect on their psyche. This implies not only foods, but all manner of consumption. Just as there are three major states of relative consciousness, there are three basic kinds of foods. The first group is composed of those foods which engender restlessness and distraction. Example, sugars, salty foods, dry foods, hot spices, coffee, fish, poultry, eggs, etc. Coffee. I can't even drink coffee. Since all of this is kicked in a few months ago, I was getting coffee like every day. Sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a day, right? I can't even drink it with cream or sugar, nor can I drink it black, because I weaned myself from the sugar and cream in my coffee. I can't even drink it black now. Coffee tastes like the scent of perfume. Like I can't even get one swallow down. Once it hits my tongue, I literally have to spit it out. And every now and again I'll test it, but it's still the same nasty taste. So I'm cured of my coffee addiction. These foods promote passion, stimulate the emotions, and excite the body. Also, eating in a hurry promotes restlessness and distraction. The second group is composed of foods which promote dullness. This group includes, so that first group, let me read this again. The first group is composed of those foods which engender restlessness and distraction. And for an example, they gave sugars, salty foods, dry foods, hot spices, coffee, fish, poultry, eggs, etc. These foods promote passion, stimulate the emotions, and excite the body. Also, eating in a hurry promotes restlessness and distraction. Eating in the car, going through the fast food, eating, trying to get to work on your lunch break, or working at your desk, eating. The second group is composed of foods which promote dullness. This includes meats, tobacco, alcohol, fermented foods, processed foods, stale or overripe foods, right? You get the itis, get kicked back, you smoke some weed or something, and if you're smoking it for recreational use, it's not for its medicinal properties, right? You get lazy, all that stuff. Some of y'all know about some of this stuff just as well as I do. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. These foods promote dullness of intellect, anger, hatred, greed, volatility, negative thoughts, disease, and clouded reasoning ability. These foods are filled with negativity due to the way in which they are handled in the food processing system. The addition of unnatural chemicals to food in and of itself is reason enough to classify them as tainted with poison. The killing of animals effectively poisons the foods with negative hormones as well as fear vibrations from the animals. Also, the human digestive tract is not designed to handle meat, so the food rots as it passes through the intestinal system, causing diseases such as cancer. Is there any wonder why medical doctors admonish those who contract cancer or experience heart trouble to stop eating meat and to stop smoking? Shouldn't they begin promoting a meat-free diet for everyone, including themselves, at an early age? If smoking is known to produce cancer, shouldn't it be outlawed, as are other addictive drugs? Poisons are sold out of greed and ignorance. Also, such poisons are consumed due to ignorance and addictive desire. Dull foods are not good for the body or for the mind, but much like stimulating foods, they create an addictive form of dependency wherein even when the person has a full understanding of the deleterious effects of the foods, he or she continues to consume them anyway, using the excuse, well, I want to enjoy my life even if I shorten it. The weakened will disables a person's reasoning capacity as well as their willpower to resist the urge for the foods. Lucid foods are those which promote harmony, inner mental peace, bright intellect, willpower, etc. They foster purity of the mind as well as the body. They are nutritious and enhance the body's ability to fight off disease. Lucid foods include whole foods, cereals, fresh vegetables and fruits, legumes, seeds, nuts, sprouted seeds, herb teas, honey. A serious spiritual aspirant must learn about the nature of food as he or she climbs the ladder of mystical spirituality. In doing so, a healthy constitution can be created which will allow for a positive and fruitful spiritual movement towards self-discovery. Since every human being is not exactly the same as another, the exact diet which is optimal for each individual will be slightly different. Therefore, each individual should experiment with their diet within the broad guidelines given above in order to discover the right combination within the lucid diet category which is best suited for him or her. And that is where we will pause at today. Siri, cancel. I must have said something that sounded like her name, and she, hold on, me.
Okay, I found this on the web for spiritual aspirant must learn about the nature of food as he or she climb the ladder of mystical spirituality, and doing so a healthy constitution can be created which will allow for a positive and fruitful spiritual movement towards self-discovery, since every human being is not exactly the same as another. The exact diet which is optimal for 8 individual will be slightly different. Therefore, each individual should experiment with the diet within the broad guidelines given above in order to discover the right combination within the lucid by a category which is best suited for him or her. And that is where we will pause it today. Siri, cancel.
Siri, cancel.
Siri be ill hustling and be catching the wrong stuff. All right, y'all.
Mom, her only doing me.
All right, y'all. So that's what we're going to pause at today. What page is that? 146.
I can help.
Okay. So I hope y'all enjoyed that for today.
I can
Hopefully.
help.
What is this? Okay. Hopefully you learned a little more today, especially in regards to the diet and your spiritual life. It completely matters 100% what you consume on your spiritual journey especially while you're in search for the truth, right? Okay. All right, beautiful people. Thanks for hanging out. It is Saturday, May 21st, 2022, day 114 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1132. We read the Lord's book in the Oahspe, pages 95 to 112, but also within it, after we finished the Lord's book, we started in the book of Thor. And then we jumped over here to the meditation book, read pages 142 through 146. All right, beautiful people. That is it for today. We will not be here tomorrow because this moon cycle, we are observing the Sabbath on Sundays, right? So we are at the, the second Sabbath? No, I'm sorry.
Sunday.
We are the third.
Sunday. Mom, it's
we
Saturday.
have the third Sabbath tomorrow.
I got it correct.
Right, so shortly, in about a week, we're going to be looking, starting to look for the new moon again. Right? All right, y'all. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Make sure you rest well. Stop, girl. Make sure you rest well. And I will see y'all back here Monday morning, 7:15 a.m. Yeah, probably when I say it's cereal, right? It's probably when I say it's cereal. Robin, shalom. I saw you coming out, but I forgot to say hi. Bella, stop. Okay. All right, y'all. That being said, I'll see y'all back here Monday, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.